This is Josh Snyder, and you're watching Thoughtful Discussions. And I'm here with
Todd Keebs. What's going on?
what's up? What do you do?
What do I do?
Introduce yourself a little bit.
So I'm, I guess I do a number of things. I mean, my day job, I have a day job that's kind of one area, and then other stuff that's in various other realms. But I'm an engineer for a microphone company, so audio and electrical engineer. That's going to be ending soon. But and then in my spare time, I do lasers, throw parties, DJ, graphic design, stuff like that.
A little mix of everything.
Yeah.
So, but most people know you as a DJ in public.
Sure. Yeah.
For the public eye, especially in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So.
Or a photo bomber.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Keebs in the background. Check it out. Hilarious.
plug.
Yeah. So you have a couple different events. You do laser crunk, right? What else do you do?
That's the main one. I mean, we do that now quarterly at Brillo Box and quarterly at Belvedere's. We used to do it every month at Brillo Box for 9 years or so, but we thought, switching it up a little bit more often is kind of, gives people a little something more to look forward to in terms of, okay, some people like going to Belvedere's, some people like going to Brillo Box more,
right.
And just changing it up is always a good thing.
Nice. I like that.
So we do that, and then I used to be part of, actually right down the street from here at the Bloomfield Bridge Tavern, Fuzz, which was a drum and bass night, weekly drum and bass night that went on for 14 years.
Yeah.
So I was part of that for about 12 years of that. So
Gotcha.
So those are the two big things, but we do other events here and there. I started a night called Heavy Handed that I did once last year. I'm probably going to continue again,
Cool. So, being a mic technician and doing all that stuff, how does that play into your technical ability and some of the, as a DJ, you kind of think about sound and stuff a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, so my to be a little bit more specific as far as my day job.
Yeah.
It's a microphone company. We make microphones that go into like laptops and cell phones, so really tiny microphones. What I would do is kind of two roles. One, which would be to do the full characterization of the microphones as far as all the technical specifications, both electrical and acoustic, and then also help customers integrate our microphones into their products. So kind of customer support, but more like design support.
Right. Not to the user end, but to the people that are making the product.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So for like a laptop manufacturer, they would come to us and say, how does this look in terms of acoustics, electrics?
Right.
Electrics.
Yeah.
Electrical interface. It's a technical term, the electrics.
Yeah.
And then we would advise them just based on our previous experience and whatnot, and do simulations if necessary.
Cool.
So I mean, as far as how that plays into DJing, I guess, a lot of it has to do with a lot of the customer discussions would sometimes have to do with how the microphone is going to work in the system, and so like doing debug on things like driver issues or things like that are often similar to things that I may encounter in DJing. I would say, overall, it's kind of the technical aptitude of troubleshooting and debug comes in helpful a lot, and it's not necessarily maybe while I'm DJing, but more like if the person before me has some issue, right, and I need to go in there and, okay, you need to check this cable. If it's not that cable, then it's going to be the connector that's connected to it,
Right.
So going through those kinds of things, I would say I'm probably one of the biggest direct comparisons, but also, just in terms of audio quality and things like that.
Yeah, that's what I think, like, there's a lot of other DJs that may not be able to hear, different levels or different things that, where if you have everything pitch perfect, you could, tone things right, and people are going to get a different experience, especially if they're musicians and they're, and they like things a certain way.
Right. Yeah, I would say that overall I prefer kind of I prefer things to be as clean as possible in terms of both mixing and sound quality overall. So I probably over time gained that from my job, and as a result, I kind of always want those things to be right.
Right.
So my setup is all digital, and I have it all synced up. A lot of people think that's like the worst thing in the world, but I think it's one of the best things.
Okay.
So you know, I always have that, so everything's nice and tight. And
Right.
And then the fact that I don't have to worry about beat matching and having the songs go out of sync means that I can then pay attention to the actual audio and making the mix sound proper. You know, so to me that's one of the biggest things about it. Like I said, that's the best things. It allows you to really focus on what really matters, which is how it sounds. I mean, if the computer can sync the things up, then let it do it. That's what I say.
Gotcha. And starting out, did you do anything? Did you ever play with vinyl? Did you ever play with mixers? Did you ever
Yeah. I mean, when I started out, so I've been DJing since '97.
Yeah.
So 21 years, I guess now.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I started out, I mean, there was no computer option.
Right.
Serato didn't exist, and actually it was Final Scratch before Serato was one of the first ones. But yeah, so I mean, me and my buddies saved up and got turntables in high school, and you know, and we used to actually use 3 turntables. And actually, I guess that kind of goes back to the same thing. So we would use 3 turntables, so that, and we would both DJ at the same time, so that essentially one person would be, you know, lining up the next mix and really, you know, getting everything synced up nice, while the other person was mixing their record. So it actually gave you twice as much time to do everything, and then we could layer stuff on top of each other and do a little bit more like that. So so yeah, so I DJ'd on vinyl for probably the first I don't know, maybe 8 years or so, something like that.
Okay.
And now, the big downside to that, I mean, there's a number of technical reasons that I think digital is not better, but has advantages. But one of probably the biggest one is actually just in acquiring music.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be we would spend $12 for one piece of vinyl, which, you know, had one good song and then one song that, you know, they knew they could sell you on the B side, right? And
right.
Most, you know, the chance that both songs you'd want to play them was pretty small. So spend $12 for, you know, one record, and then you know, it's especially as a high school kid.
Right. That's a lot. But and now it's probably 25, 35 for a new record, because they're not getting made as much, right?
It could. I'm not sure. I don't think it's actually that much anymore. But
all right.
But it's, you know, the difference. Digital, you spend $1 and you get the digital track, and you can take 1,000 with you, right? As more than that, but
right.
So yeah.
No, it's a huge difference. So what would you say for someone starting out? Do you think that they should learn how to do a turntable? I mean, is there there's an advantage?
There you definitely gain skills, right? I mean, you gain you know, just the hearing of when things are going out of beat and how to get them back in beat. So there's definitely things to be said for that, because I mean, even with digital, right? Sometimes you're going to have a track that is a little bit off, right? And you're going to have to adjust it live. So, you know, those things come into play.
Gotcha.
So there are definitely advantages of learning how to beat match by ear. I would say it's hard for me to say whether or not somebody starting off really should, because it takes a while, and it's and it's not easy. So, you know, whether or not you spend that time in doing that, or learning how to like do finger drumming and, you know, really master another type of skill.
Gotcha.
You know, I think it's for everybody to figure out on their own. But yeah, there are advantages to learning off of vinyl, and vinyl has, I mean, other control advantages as well. I mean, obviously in terms of scratching. If you're looking to be, I guess that's another thing, right? I mean, what I do and the music that I play, I don't really scratch, right? I mean, I'll play samples and I'll do things like that, but I'm not going to be scratching. And if you're not scratching, then having turntable loses a lot of its benefits.
Right. Gotcha. Well, do you have any advice to anyone that's starting out that might be thinking about being a DJ, or they've been doing it for a little while but they want to develop themselves a little bit?
Overall advice, I mean, I would say get a good organizational system for music in terms of tagging, and as you acquire new music, tag it with, you know, genres, descriptions, things like that that can help you remember what it is, as well as find it when you need it.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, personally, I don't have a great like recall memory in terms of that's that song. It's such and such by so and so.
Some people can do that.
Right.
Like on the fly.
Some people are great at
No,
that.
I don't do that
I'm
either.
not gonna- I rely on the other, mechanisms to help me organize things, and having album art is actually another big thing as well.
Gotcha.
And that's definitely another big advantage of vinyl is that when you're going through your records and you see, oh, there's that track, right? And it used to be that I wouldn't know what the name was, I wouldn't know what anything else was, but I go through and I see that track that has the red label that's a little bit off-centered, and I know exactly what it is.
Right.
So having album art in your MP3 collection, if you're going digital, I would say definitely be good about that, because it's the difference of playing that song that you want to hear at exactly the right time, or being like, I don't know what that is, I don't want to worry about figuring it out, or sitting up there, for 5 minutes, just looking through your tracks, is this the right one? Is this the right one?
Right.
So to the same extent, I think track preparation before a set is important. If you can't just pull it off on the fly, right? I mean, if you can do that, that's great too. But having crates put together of different genres, so you can kind of pick and choose as you want. Is key also.
So do you have, let's say you're going to be playing for 2 hours, do you have 3 hours worth of music kind of ready to go, and you kind of, that way you can, what you're kind of getting into, but you have...
Yeah, I mean, there's pretty few instances where it'll be like you have an hour to play and you pull an hour worth of stuff. I mean, it's usually, because people could walk out in the middle of one and you decide I need to switch styles immediately.
Right.
So having, a significant amount more than you're planning on playing or what you expect to play is certainly recommended. Or if, like the Timbaland show that I played at, where you're supposed to play for an hour and you play for 3 hours, then it's,
Yeah, gotcha. So where'd you get your start? Like I know you said you started a while back. What inspired you to start DJing, and how'd that come about?
It was all from raves back when I was in high school. I had a number of friends who would go to going to raves, and so I started going to raves, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. This is unlike anything I've ever heard before. And then I thought, well, me and my friend were both kind of really tight and both liked all the music together. We were like, we could do this, and there'll be two of us.
Right.
It'll be like a little gimmick, we'll be two teenagers going, and it worked. I mean, we ended up playing a good bit at raves and stuff, and so I went through high school. That was the last probably 2 years of high school or so.
Okay.
And then in college, I went down to University of Miami for college.
Nice.
And I did a radio show there for 2 years on Friday nights, which was kind of passed down to me from another guy who'd been doing it, and another guy. So it was a kind of long tradition of electronic music Friday night shows.
Cool.
So that was a good transition.
Awesome. So what would you say the genres have kind of passed from, the last couple decades,
as far as stuff that I would play, or just in general?
For you.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess maybe I didn't fully get back to that before, but so when I first started DJing, I would play drum and bass, jungle, and and I wanted to play other stuff, but at $12 a song, essentially, it's just not really realistic. So so I was like, okay, I'd rather stick to that and have that bass and not have to worry about it. And so that was, I guess, again, probably the first 8 years of DJing or so.
Gotcha.
And then whenever I started DJing with a computer, it was just like, whoa.
Opened it up. Yeah.
Yeah, now I can play whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think I still really mainly played drum and bass for the first year or two after I switched to digital. But then when I started DJing with Jeff Cutups, I mean, he used to be part of the Fuzz the night that I was down at the Bloomfield Bridge Tavern also.
Gotcha.
But whenever I kind of had this, oh wow, there's all this other music out there, is when when Bloghouse, what they used to call, was kind of hit the scene, and it was really a lot about remixes of pop songs in an electronic fashion, which was I mean, now it's there's a everything's really blended together. Pop music basically is electronic music. I mean, they're pretty close.
Right.
But at that time, they weren't. And so there was this whole fusion of people taking stuff, chopping it up. I mean, this is when also Girl Talk was really kind of blowing up as well.
Right.
And that whole remix,
Yep.
culture essentially
Mm.
came about. And so that was a lot of what we were playing then, was just really fun party music.
Yeah.
And it was great because, like I said, I used to only spin drum and bass, and
Yeah.
you go to a drum and bass party and people are going to get down, but you go to, your friend's party and put it on and people are like, what is this? And like everybody leaves.
Right.
So it was really liberating and refreshing to then be able to play stuff to regular people.
Gotcha.
And stuff that I liked.
Yeah.
I mean, I could always play, a normal set of the top 40 or crowd pleaser type stuff, but being able to do it and have it be what I like, as well as that, was a great.
Here's a song and let me do it in my style.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's awesome. What are some influences you had growing up?
Influences. I mean, I guess in terms of actual music or people or
Music, people. It could be someone local or multiple people, like kind of helped you get your start, or like just music in general.
Yeah, I mean, Diesel Boy was like one of the first drum and bass DJs that I kind of really, looked up to. And there was this one, and he was a local DJ, but he was also one of the biggest drum and bass DJs in the world. Still is.
Okay.
And so he had a mixtape or a CD, I guess actually, that was called Drum and Bass Selection USA.
Okay.
And that actually is it's very similar to what we were just talking about as far as the remix culture, because it was all pretty much all like hip hop mixed with drum and bass.
Gotcha.
And it was very, catchy, but also technical. A lot of bass, really tight drums, and as well as some reggae influences in there as well. So I'd say that was kind of one of the turning points in terms of getting into drum and bass and really being inspired.
Gotcha.
And it was just exciting. It was something new, something different, yet also again something kind of relatable. So that was one of the first big inroads to that style. I mean, before that, I would say like Bjork and Tricky, so more trip hop oriented stuff.
Right.
More when I was in like my younger teens, that was definitely big. The Orb, who were like a kind of ambient dub act, and they've been around forever. So them, and then like I'd say even before that, like Pink Floyd. Was certainly a big early influence, and I think mainly because my dad had like a CD, and it was like one of the first CDs that ever existed or whatever. It was like we had a CD player. We had like 2 CDs. Like one was that, and one was The Cure and like the Rolling Stones or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. How have you seen the music scene kind of change over the years? I mean, obviously everything goes in waves, but you've been in it for a while, so you could see, have a good, bad, ugly, for the last couple decades. How has it progressed, and where do you think it's at now?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. There's a lot
to it. I'm sure.
Sure. I mean, but I'd say, overall, when I started, going out, I guess on my own, right, as opposed to like going to a concert with my parents, right?
Right.
But it was when I would start going to raves, and so I was more this underground culture, and really.
We don't have that much anymore.
Well, it still exists, but it's at the time it was more like it was a little bit more of a pioneering attitude, and it was a little more on its own and underground. Whereas like, I mean, the underground, right? There is still an underground electronic rave scene, but it's very different from what it used to be.
Right.
And I'm also older, I guess, but I mean, it's hard to say. Like at the time, I didn't think everybody there was young. But I mean, I guess they were, because I was 16,
Right.
But nowadays, I think one of the biggest divisions between the rave scene as well as like the other music scene in Pittsburgh is that it's more of a younger crowd. It's a significantly younger crowd than everything else, which is good, right? In a lot of ways, because they're excited. They show up early and they dance from the beginning of the night, and like they go hard. But on the on the other side, I think it's not quite as refined of a sound.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more aggressive for the sake of being aggressive. And it didn't really used to be that way in electronic music.
Gotcha.
So like nowadays, like with like dubstep and what some people call bro step and they call rhythm, they're really just bang your head off the wall, go crazy kind of stuff, which is,
right.
It can be a lot of fun in the right mood, but it's just like, as you and your friends get older, it's like you don't want to be doing that for, every night,
right.
3 hours straight. So, so I think that's kind of one of the big things. I mean, for me personally, at least as far as what aspects of the scene I've been involved in, has been going from that more underground scene, seeing that kind of change. And that was a lot also when I was going to college. So when I came back, it was, a decent bit different for me. And then I guess the other kind of transition was, again, that whole like blog house when maybe like 11 years ago when me and Jeff Cutups really started doing stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like this really just exciting, fresh thing where people, it was just a big wide variety of people would come out and just dance and go crazy.
Nice.
And, on a Thursday night at Brillo Box, and it would be, packed, like, 150 people.
Nice.
And nobody really like necessarily knowing the songs like inherently, but just going out to have a good time.
Right.
And then I'd say since then, it's kind of changed as like that was I would say before. I mean, at that time, going out was either going to like just like a normal bar,
right,
like and listening to top 40, right, or going to like a rock show, and then there was this dance music, right, and it was like that wasn't raves.
Right.
It was at a bar, and this kind of again an exciting wave, and then since then it's that I think that kind of more exploratory attitude and just just go crazy and just go with it has left a little bit, and nowadays there's I'd say there's a much stronger tendency to stay in a lane in terms of having a night be a specific thing.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of it's changed that willingness to listen to something different and check something new out.
Right.
There's reasons for it, right? I mean, there's marketing reasons. Essentially, I think really what it comes down to is if you have a night that's this style of music, right? Like, I like that style of music. I'm going to go to that.
Right.
So that's kind of my I'd say my biggest hang up right now with where things are is that there's just a tendency to stay in that lane,
right,
and as a reason, it sort of builds on itself, right? I mean, the more things that exist like that, the more people
want it. Right.
So
it's
great.
Easy.
Yeah,
it's easy from the consumer standpoint. Right. If I know, there's going to be this event and I know exactly what I'm getting, that's going to fill the house. Yeah. But at the same time, you could still communicate that if it's going to be a night that kind of leaves things to be imagined, right? You can
communicate that, but it's.
I mean, for Laser Crunk, does that have a little bit broader spectrum?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I mean, our and that's I'd say one of our biggest issues, right? I mean, is that we sometimes will have somebody playing house, we'll sometimes have somebody playing just hip hop, sometimes have somebody playing dub,
right? Because you guys have guest DJs,
a
lot, right?
And we also like a pretty wide variety of stuff. So it's very hard. Like so when we first started out, like I said, people would just come out, right? We would like have a fun theme, and people would just be like, "Yeah, let's go, this is gonna be great." And now it's like you need to pick and choose. You need to be like, okay, this is gonna be this night, know, and that works great sometimes. But sometimes it doesn't.
Gotcha.
So
So working with bar owners and promoters, people that obviously book talent, that even though you've progressed over the last few years, you obviously know people, and it doesn't. It's a smaller town in Pittsburgh, rather than like New York City or DC or Southern California. What would you say to someone that's just starting out? Like, obviously, you want to be part of the scene, show up to shows, be there.
Yep.
What as a DJ, like, are there events where there's open tables? But like, I hear about that, but it seems like people don't really show up. You don't really have like crowds that, there. What's the chance that, like, how do you break into the scene now? What do you think, like, would be advice for someone that's just starting out?
As far as DJing or throwing shows or
Just
or because they're I mean,
yeah, no, that's true. I would say as a DJ, like, if you're just starting out DJing and you want to get in there and you want people to see you and you want to, like, how would you go about that?
I mean, I think the most straightforward thing is to throw your own show.
Okay.
Right, which is, and I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And if you essentially, that way you get people to come out and they'll hear you play.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's the
Okay.
easiest, right? And then
Right,
enough
yeah.
people see you play, and then somebody else will want to hear you play.
Right.
But otherwise, I mean, so it's kind of a.
I mean, that's harder. You have to have a lot more skill sets. You have to know how to promote. You have to know how to
Yep.
book a place. You got to have a little bit of money up front. You got to, like, there's reasons that people that are just starting out don't go that route, right?
Right, sure. But so I think the biggest thing is the biggest hurdle to becoming a known DJ or really is that it's hard, So okay, so say you want to say you write music, right? And you actually have your own music, right?
Sure.
People can go onto SoundCloud and they listen to 2 minutes. They're like, oh, I like that. Cool.
Right.
I like that person. And then you have
Sure.
a good association with that person.
Yep.
As opposed to a DJ, to really, actually for somebody who's DJing to stick out in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
they need to be either doing something special,
Mm-hmm.
or you need to sit there and listen to an entire hour, right?
Right.
And really be like, oh, that was good. That went from here to here, and their
Right.
mixing was good, and this was good, and like I
Right.
like this, So like the attention you required to really evaluate somebody as a DJ and to really understand like what they're doing is much greater than it is for an individual song. So
Gotcha.
I mean, a lot of the artists that we bring in, as well as that get booked all around the world, really is not based on their DJing.
Right.
It's actually based on their production, their musical writing, as opposed to their DJing. So
Okay.
I mean, there are a few times where somebody might be known for being a great DJ, and we
Right.
would bring them to town for that. But usually it's because we like their music, and therefore we're hoping they're good DJs too, right?
Right.
I mean, if we can, we'll check them out beforehand. I mean, which we almost always do, but sometimes it might be hard to find live sets from them, or they might have a studio mix that's going to be different than their live mix.
Right.
So it occasionally happens that you get somebody that's not the best DJ in the world.
Right.
But DJing is there's room for slop, I guess.
Yeah. It can be subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of the answer for in terms of the bigger picture, like if you
Yeah.
want to be a touring DJ and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But it also relates to even just DJing down the street.
Gotcha.
In terms of I think you want to do something different, right? And you want to practice and be able to be confident up there that
Right.
such that you're not going to make a fool of yourself and you're like, what does this guy do?
Right.
And then, I mean, the other thing is kind of what we were saying before, as far as staying in a lane, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you decide that you really like one specific thing,
Right.
and that's what you want to DJ, then you can say that's my thing, right? And I'm going to do that. And that there's a lot to be said for that. I wish that I was more like that.
Yeah.
Because it makes it a lot easier. Like, I would love to just be like, I'm a house DJ, or I'm a this DJ, and screw the other stuff. And if you like this, come see me.
Right.
Problem is, I like a lot of stuff, so it's just not easy in that sense. So don't do what I did.
What's your favorite place to go and see? What's your favorite venue in Pittsburgh?
I mean, narrow it down a little bit more.
What's your favorite venue to see a new DJ?
To see a new DJ.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a place that, like, is always having new people. or it's
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, so I think the Rex is really good for bigger DJs, right? Somebody that's going to pull 600 people, right?
Right.
Because they have a good lighting system built in.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good sound system. It's a good sized room.
Yep.
Staff's all cool. They know what they're doing.
Yep.
So I would say for larger acts, that's probably one of the most consistent. You know, I mean, I'm also friends with most of the venues, so
Right.
It's
hard to be selective.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to like. I mean, I also love going to Spirit,
Right.
Belvedere's, Brillo Box. Like those are kind of, you know, Brillo Box is more of a house party kind of vibe, right? You know,
Right.
Belvedere's is a little bit more of a college party-ish vibe, and Spirit's more of just all over the place. But
Right.
but you know, they have proper sound systems as well, and
Right.
and they do a good job in terms of drinks and staff and everything else. So. So yeah, those are probably my top four, I guess I would say. If we
Gotcha.
can have
Yeah.
four instead of just one.
Ah, that's sweet. Who would you say is underrated right now? Someone that you see them doing their thing and you're just like, they're going to be, you know, maybe someone you like that they haven't really hit it big yet, or people don't know of them yet. You're just like, they got something right there.
I mean, I think there's a number of people doing stuff like that, and really, I would say that it's a lot. It's almost more so about the vibe that the party brings than anything.
Okay.
You know, so it's like it's somebody might be a great DJ, but if you don't bring the right people out and you're not friends with the right people,
right,
then they're not going to come out and your party's not going to be that fun.
That's
so
fair.
Like, you know, so like, I mean, I think the Slappers and Bangers guys are one of the people that are kind of the most on that in terms of like get people there. People are there to have a good time,
right?
And
I love that.
And, you know, and it works.
Yeah.
And you can tell they're having a good time.
Right.
People are excited.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, so yeah, I think them, and then there's another dude who just threw his first show recently here with Dissolved, and they I think that's the right name. But they brought a DJ in from San Francisco, and it was a Cativo downstairs, and it was like one of the most crowded I've ever seen the downstairs at Cativo, which was great to see, because usually it's like, I don't know, it's hit or miss,
right? Downstairs
at least. And it was also some more on the underground tip in terms of music style, so a little more accessible. I mean, not super weird, which I like, but you know,
not everyone does.
That many people there,
right?
So.
Right.
So yeah, I think them, and then you know, so Jeff Cut-Ups and some of his friends, Nate and my other friend Dave, have this BXC collective, which is like breakcore and kind of more on the crazier spectrum of stuff, you know. But it's hard because there's only 20 people in Pittsburgh that like that kind of music, you know. So like you can kind of sometimes pull in from like the, you know, different scenes that are tangentially related.
Right.
So I've liked a lot of stuff that they've brought in recently, but it's a lot harder, right? And it's
right.
So there's, you know, musically as well as, you know, musically, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Party vibe wise, you know, there's a spectrum.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say for yourself, learning curve? Like, what was something that you, like, once it clicked, you were able to make that next step?
In terms of musically, or
could be either way.
I'm not sure that there's much that's just
like
clicks and then you're in good, right?
That's
I mean,
fair.
it's
like a hardship, or like a something that you're like, man, if I would have known this 5 years ago, I would have been able to get ahead, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think graphic design is a big, and having an identity in that sense, and that, I mean,
branding.
Yeah, branding, right?
Yep.
And that's one thing that, you know, we have tried to do with Laser Crunk, and that I think has had that continuity there, and at least people have that to kind of hold on to, is that we always try and do physical flyers, right? And we always try and put time into it so that it looks good and creative, original ideas. So, yeah, I think finding that and paying attention to that and realizing it does matter.
Yeah.
How people, you know, perceive it.
That's That's definitely something to think about. Like,
And if you want to get anything made, Flower City Print Shop.
got you. That's awesome. Where do you see yourself for the future, and how are you? You know, what steps are you taking to try to get there?
I would say, I mean, the next kind of step that I'm most interested in is doing more of a live performance and more of a even more of a custom setup. So I mean, I've for the last, I mean, since I started DJing digitally, I've never used like a traditional controller. I've always taken something else and remapped it and sort of made it my own. And now I've been working a lot more on finger drumming and trying really to become more live performance kind of almost like a fusion. I mean, you know, so I always have lots of buttons and screens and whatnot, and oftentimes people see that and they think, oh, he's doing a live set, and like, nah, I'm just DJing. Like, I mean, I'm throwing some other stuff in there and doing some other things, but not really as much as I really could be doing.
Yeah.
So I think taking it to that level is where I would is probably the next stage that I'm kind of trying to go for. And I've done some of that in the past. Like I was in a band with some people, and we did, you know, we had live drums, and I put live effects on their stuff, and it was great. But it just didn't kind of end up working out for various reasons. But what we did, I was really proud of, and it was really fun. So I think doing that more, as well as incorporating live visuals into it more. So you know, I've got some ideas there, but haven't executed them yet. But you know, hopefully coming soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Let me have some of your like links. Where can people find you?
Well, so we have the Lasercrunk Instagram, which is instagram.com/lasercrunk with a Z. That's for Lasercrunk. My personal is Todd Keebs. You know, I don't really have a separate DJ and whatever else. Just, you know, if you want to be friends with me, hit me up, and you know.
Keebs in the background.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Keebs in the background, which is my photobombing Instagram. It's my true passion in life. You know.
Love it. It cracks me up. I sincerely.
Yeah.
Big fan.
And mixcloud.com/lasercrunk, as well as mixcloud.com/Todd Keebs for DJ mixes.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on.
Sure.
You're watching Thoughtful Discussions, and I'm Josh Snyder.
And I'm Todd Keebs.